feel like navigating your personal finances is like trying to drink from a fire hose.
Oh, absolutely.
There's just so much information out there, and it can feel, well, incredibly overwhelming trying to figure out what actually matters for your future.
Yeah.
Today, we're going to try and cut through some of that noise.
That's exactly our mission for this deep dive. We've gone through your material, really tried to distill the expert tips, and hopefully some genuinely surprising facts too.
Good.
Our goal is really to give you those aha moments and, insights you can actually use without the information overload.
Okay.
We're covering quite a bit, building that secure financial base, getting a handle on your cash flow, navigating debt, and maybe most importantly, avoiding those common pitfalls that can just derail everything.
Yeah, those sound familiar. And what immediately jumped out at me from the material was this fantastic analogy for understanding financial planning.
Ah, the pyramid.
Yes. Thinking of it like a building or a pyramid, it's all about starting with the basics, right? The foundation, and then carefully building up.
Exactly. You have to build that foundation first. Financial security.
That's the base.
That's the base. It's a sequential approach. Once that foundation feels solid, then you move up. You start protecting your earning power, your assets. Think smart insurance, risk hedging techniques.
Okay.
And only when those are firmly in place, well, then you can start taking maybe more calculated risks.
With savings, you mean?
Yeah, with savings. For those known future needs, things like maybe college for the kids, funding your own training, perhaps even buying or starting a business down the line.
And the very top of this pyramid, the pinnacle, that's where things like leaving legacies come in.
Precisely. That ultimate long-term goal. But here's a really critical takeaway from the material. This isn't something you just do once and forget about.
Right. It needs upkeep.
Definitely.
Yeah.
Prudence in finance means you only risk what you can genuinely afford to lose. You have to prioritize your disposable income carefully, sequentially. First, cover those short-term, known expenses. Then you look at expenses that are, well, likely to happen, but you're not sure when or how much.
Okay.
And finally, you plan for those unlikely but potentially catastrophic events. It really requires continuous review. The material suggests at least twice a year because, life changes, right? Your circumstances evolve.
Absolutely. Okay, so if that's the big picture, the pyramid, what does this all mean for the nuts and bolts? The day-to-day cash management?
Yeah, good question.
The material we looked at introduces a core strategy here, the 3-tiered cash reserve system. And it stresses this isn't just for one age group. It's necessary whether you're young, nearing retirement, or already there.
That's right. It applies across the board.
Right.
And to build it effectively, you need a special kind of budget.
Not just tracking expenses.
Not just tracking, no.
Okay.
It's more specific. It's a 2-column budget.
Yeah.
1 column for what you intended to spend and 1 for what you actually spent.
Okay. Intended versus actual.
Exactly. That level of detail gives you the precise data you need to estimate how much cash should go into each tier. So your planning is grounded in reality, your real spending habits.
Makes sense. So let's break down those tiers. Tier 1, that sounds like the most basic one. Totally liquid cash.
It is. That's the one most people think of. Its main purpose is to cover your known repeating monthly expenses.
Like rent, utilities.
Exactly. Think of it as your daily flow-through money. Plus, maybe an extra month's worth for some modest discretionary spending, a little buffer.
How long do you keep this money?
A month or 2, tops. You typically keep it in a checking account, maybe a basic money market fund. You have to accept the return will be minimal because it needs to be instantly accessible.
Right.
And importantly, if you use credit cards for everyday things, groceries or whatever, this Tier 1 fund is what ensures you pay off those charges before interest kicks in. You absolutely have to know those credit card terms.
Okay, crucial point. So, Tier 1, immediate, predictable stuff. What about things that are a bit less predictable, but still pretty likely? That brings us to Tier 2.
Right. Tier 2 is for what the material calls measurable contingencies and deductibles. All those deductibles.
Measurable contingencies?
Yeah.
Like what?
Things that are very likely to happen, but you just don't know exactly when or how much it'll cost.
Okay.
Think car maintenance, maybe that vacation you're planning, or unexpected home repairs.
A boiler breaking down?
Exactly. And critically, it also needs to cover contingencies like a brief period of disability or maybe the temporary job loss. Plus, and this is huge, it needs to cover all your deductibles.
Wow. All of them.
Every single one.
Yeah.
Health insurance, auto, homeowners, even errors and omissions, which is basically professional liability insurance if you need that for your work.
That could be a significant chunk of change.
It really can be. And you use that 2-column budget we talked about, tracking it for maybe a year or more to get really accurate estimates for this tier. The goal here is aiming for at least 1 year of coverage. Ideally, maybe up to 5 years for bigger potential home repairs.
And where do you keep this money? It's not your checking account, presumably.
Right. You're looking for the highest return you can get, but with minimal penalty if you need to withdraw it early. So definitely no aggressive bond funds, certainly no stocks usually, unless maybe it's a multi-year fund with very minimal market loss risk built in.
Okay.
And here's a really neat benefit of having a solid Tier 2 fund. It actually lets you choose higher deductibles or maybe longer waiting periods on your insurance policies.
Ah, because you can cover them yourself if needed.
Exactly. And that can significantly save you money on insurance premiums over time. It's a real strategic advantage.
Okay. That makes a lot of sense. Which brings us to the third tier, Tier 3, contingent and long-term potential expenses. This sounds like the real what-if fund.
It kind of is.
Yeah.
Yeah. This tier is for expenses that have a, let's say, reasonable probability of happening. But honestly, they might never actually occur.
Like what, for example?
The material positions, it's sort of like a 10-year fund looking beyond Tier 2's horizon, maybe very major home renovations down the line, or perhaps needing to help family members unexpectedly. Since you might not need to access it quickly or ever, it can be exposed to a bit more market risk than Tier 2.
But still less risk than your main retirement savings.
Generally, yes. Less risk than your truly long-term goals like retirement. And here's a key point. Once this tier is reasonably filled, any excess money beyond that should then flow into non-qualified investments.
Meaning not in tax-advantaged accounts like a 401k or IRA.
Correct. Investments held outside those retirement structures aimed at funding even longer-term goals. Filling Tier 3 also lets you perhaps increase your qualified retirement savings beyond just getting the employer match, and generally improve your overall risk management picture.
Important clarification, though, this tier doesn't include things like saving for college or buying a business.
Explicitly not. Those are separate, dedicated accumulation goals with their own planning horizons and strategies. They need their own buckets.
Got it. So, pulling this all together, what does this 3-tier system mean for the average person listening? I mean, the bottom line seems to be.
The bottom line is, filling these 3 tiers absolutely requires your income to be consistently higher than your expenses. There's just no way around that fundamental truth.
Right. You need a surplus to build reserves.
Precisely. This tiered cash reserve system is the fundamental base. It's the bedrock for risk management in that whole financial pyramid we talked about earlier.
And while you're building these reserves, especially if you're still working?
Yes, if you're in the earnings phase of your life, some basic disability coverage is absolutely essential. The material shared a startling fact. You are apparently 4 times more likely to have a long disability than to die before age 65.
Wow, 4 times. That's so right.
It really is. It's a critical piece of protection most people overlook. And one more vital point while we're on reserves. Always capture that employer match in your retirement plan if you have one.
That's the free money.
It's literally free money. You're just leaving it on the table if you don't contribute enough to get the full match.
Yeah.
Don't do that.
Okay, solid advice. Now, here's where the material suggests it gets really interesting and maybe complicated.
The human element.
Exactly. Knowing all this stuff is one thing, but our impulses, our emotions, they can seriously mess up even the best plans.
They absolutely can. Knowledge isn't always enough in finance.
So let's unpack some of these real stories from the material. Mm-hmm. They really highlight this human side. The first one, back in 2008, there was this young advisor, Charles, who was looking at a screen, just distressed, seeing a loss of over $40,000 on his client John's aggressive money market fund.
Right. And John's reaction was probably disbelief.
Totally shocked. He apparently said, "What do you mean devalued? It's a money market fund, for Christ's sake." He just assumed it was risk-free, like cash.
And that is such a common and dangerous assumption. Look, most standard money market funds are designed to be stable, very low risk. But the aggressive ones, they're a different beast altogether.
How so?
Well, they often use complex strategies, things like options and derivatives, trying to squeeze out higher returns, which inherently means they can lose value. And sometimes they do.
And John's fund didn't just lose value.
No, it was worse. It was actually frozen. The managers wouldn't redeem shares, so his money was trapped. Couldn't get it out.
Ouch.
Yeah. The stark lesson there is you really need an astute advisor who clearly explains the actual risks involved. You can never just assume something is safe just because of its name. You have to look under the hood.
That story really hits home the danger of assumptions. Here's another one, Bill's story. This one highlights the perils of impulsive decisions driven by, well, raw emotion. Bill was going through a really tough divorce, deep in pain, feeling depressed. And in this moment of, I guess, impulsive desperation, he decided to pay off his half of the mortgage. He genuinely thought it would free him from the debt.
Oh dear. But I suspect there's a catch.
A huge one. He and his ex-wife were jointly and severally obligated on the mortgage.
Ah, the legal terminology. Meaning
he was still legally liable for the entire balance if she didn't pay. Not just his half, but all of it. His payment just reduced the total debt owed, but he was still fully on the hook for whatever remained.
Oh, that's brutal. It really is. And the story mentioned the shame Bill felt when he realized his mistake. And sadly, his ex-wife apparently exploited his vulnerable state.
Mm-hmm.
It just powerfully illustrates how your mood, your emotional state can profoundly cloud financial judgment.
So the takeaway...
It underscores the critical need to consult a professional before making any big financial moves, especially when you're under stress. Pause, get advice, don't act impulsively.
Sound advice. And a third story about Molly and Cedric takes us into maybe an even more sensitive area. Trust and transparency in relationships.
Mm-hmm. Finances and relationships,
Right.
always intertwined.
Right. So Molly and Cedric, a high-earning couple. Molly usually handled the day-to-day finances, but she consistently resisted any kind of joint budgeting or, shared oversight. Red flag, maybe.
Potentially, yes. Or at least something worth exploring. What happened?
Well, through a detailed process, the material called backtesting, basically reviewing past financial activity very closely, their advisor uncovered something pretty shocking.
Okay.
Molly had apparently siphoned off somewhere between $50,000 and $60,000 from their disposable income into a secret mutual fund held only in her name.
Wow.
Yeah.
Cedric apparently felt like nothing more than a cash machine. He was devastated. He'd even gone as far as hiring a private investigator at one point.
That's heartbreaking. The level of distrust.
It's truly devastating. Financial secrecy like that doesn't just damage the relationship, it completely derails any shared financial goals you might have.
And the advisor was in a really tricky spot, right? Because Molly was technically a client too. Confidentiality issues.
Absolutely. An immense ethical dilemma. You can't just breach confidentiality. The delicate counsel given to Cedric, who according to the material, involved suggesting maybe a second honeymoon.
Really?
Yeah, and a very gentle, open conversation. Not about blame, but focused on rebuilding trust and transparency. Moving towards joint budgeting, shared financial oversight. The goal was to mend the foundation of their relationship so they could start pursuing their shared financial dreams again.
And did it work?
The powerful outcome, as the story concludes, was apparently their reconciliation. They renewed their pursuit of those shared dreams. It shows that even deep breaches can sometimes be repaired with careful, honest communication.
That's actually quite hopeful, but it raises an important question. Beyond these really intense personal stories, what are some of the more common financial pitfalls? Especially maybe for young couples just starting out.
Oh, there are definitely common ones. And one of the biggest, frankly, is wedding expenses.
Ah, yes.
The big day. The big day can lead to big debt. The material includes this fascinating little anecdote about a wedding back in 1988.
Okay.
It cost $1,300 for 90 people.
$1,300 for 90 people. In 1988, that's almost unbelievable compared to today.
It's a stark contrast, isn't it? Today's costs can be exorbitant, and starting a marriage saddled with tens of thousands in debt just for a single day, that's an enormous burden to carry into a new life together. It puts immense pressure on things right from the start.
So how can couples be more, frugal without feeling like they're sacrificing the joy or the significance of it all?
Well, the sources offer some really excellent practical tips. Things like maybe using recorded music instead of a super expensive live band, considering borrowing a tire or buying secondhand, negotiating really hard on catering and bar deals based on accurate head counts, not inflated guesses.
Avoiding the unnecessary extras.
Exactly. Do you really need the limo? Or the elaborate ice sculpture? Probably not. For larger affairs, sometimes using professional destination wedding planners can actually help negotiate better package deals.
Interesting.
And sometimes, maybe controversially, choosing a wedding location far from home can naturally reduce the guest list to mostly close friends and family, which allows you to focus your resources there.
Right. Fewer casual acquaintances showing up just for the party.
Precisely. Ultimately, the point is that frugality isn't about being cheap. It's about responsible stewardship of your resources. especially as you begin a shared life, making conscious choices.
Okay, good practical advice there. Let's shift gears slightly to managing debt smartly. Two big ones always come up: mortgages and credit cards.
Yep, huge topics. Let's start with mortgages.
The material suggests a surprisingly effective strategy here, just making 1 or 2 extra payments per year.
It sounds simple, but it's powerful. Ideally, you want to negotiate or confirm with your lender that any extra payment you make gets credited directly towards the principal balance immediately, or at least its principal portion does on the payment date.
And the impact.
This simple act can actually cut years off a 30-year mortgage, maybe down to 20 or 26 years, depending on the rate and how early you start. That saves you a fortune in interest over the life of the loan.
Wow. Okay. Any pitfalls with that?
Yeah, a word of caution for the material. Be really wary of those third-party or middlemen services that promise to set this up for you, sometimes for a fee.
Why is that?
They can carry risks, maybe underperformance, maybe delays in payment, maybe even in rare cases embezzlement. The safest approach is always to make those extra payments directly yourself, clearly indicating they are for principal reduction only.
Got it. Direct is best. What about refinancing? That's always tempting when rates drop.
It can be beneficial, but beware of a significant trap. Never refinance just for a lower immediate payment if it means stretching a loan back out to the same old term, like a new 30-year loan when you only had 25 years left.
Why is that bad? Lower payment sounds good.
Because doing that often means you end up paying more total interest over the longer term, even with a lower rate. You lose the progress you made paying down principal.
Ah, I see. So what should you insist on?
Always insist on an apples-to-apples comparison. Your lender should show you the total cost and savings over the remaining month of your original debt. Compare the total cost of the new loan over its shorter term versus the total remaining cost of your old loan. If they can't or won't provide that clearly, get a financial planner to review the calculations. Make sure you're truly saving money overall.
Okay, crucial check there. Now, credit cards. So convenient, so easy to get into trouble with.
They absolutely come with their own set of warnings. Rates can jump up with very little notice, sometimes based on factors unrelated to your own payment history.
And the minimum payments.
Oh, the minimum payments. They often cover almost entirely interest, especially on high balances. Paying only the minimum can literally prolong your debt for decades. It's a trap.
So what's the advice? Obviously pay more than the minimum.
Definitely. But here's a fascinating kind of nuanced point from the sources regarding building credit. While the ultimate goal is always to avoid paying interest by paying the balance in full each month, if you're specifically trying to build or improve your credit score, paying around twice the minimum consistently might sometimes be viewed more favorably by certain credit scoring models than always paying the balance off completely before the statement even cuts and interest is calculated.
Wait, really? Paying it off too fast can be less good for your score.
Paradoxically, yes, in some cases. It's not about paying interest. It's about showing active, consistent use and responsible management of the credit line over time, which includes letting a balance report on your statement, which you then pay off. It's a subtle distinction, but potentially important for maximizing your credit profile while still being financially savvy.
That's counterintuitive.
It can seem that way.
Yeah.
But let's be absolutely clear. Regardless of scoring nuances, credit cards, while convenient, should never be considered part of your cash reserve. Never.
Why not? It's available credit.
Because relying on them in a bind, when Tier 1 or 2 runs out, is a recipe for disaster. The interest rates are usually sky high, and it can spiral very quickly into serious debt, potentially even bankruptcy. They are a tool for convenience and maybe rewards, not an emergency fund.
Got it. Treat them carefully and report fraud quickly.
Yes. Report any suspected fraud within a reasonable time, which generally means within that billing cycle to limit your liability, usually to $50 under federal law for credit cards. Debit cards often have different, sometimes less protective rules, so know the difference.
Okay. The material also briefly touched on other types of loans to be aware of, something called callable loans.
Yes, that's mostly relevant for businesses, but it can have indirect personal impacts. Most commercial loans are callable, meaning the lender can demand the entire balance back early, even if the business is making payments faithfully.
Why would they do that?
Usually happens during tight economic conditions, if the bank gets nervous about the business's industry or its own capital requirements. While this probably won't directly affect your personal residential mortgage,
right?
But if your employer is a small business that relies on such loans, their financial instability could suddenly impact your job security, which definitely impacts your personal cash reserve needs. So there's an indirect link.
And can residential mortgages ever be called?
It's much rarer, but yes, usually due to violating the loan terms. A key example is failing to maintain the property. Like, if you let your roof leak so badly that your homeowner's insurance gets denied or canceled, the insurance company often notifies the mortgage lender.
And the lender doesn't like that.
Not at all. They see their collateral being damaged. They could potentially declare the loan in default and demand the full balance. It's a serious chain reaction you absolutely want to avoid through basic home maintenance.
Right. Maintain your property. Okay, so bringing this all together, we've covered the pyramid, the cash tiers, the human stories, the debt strategies. Beyond all these specifics, what's the bigger picture of financial prudence? What really makes the difference long term?
I think it boils down to continuous effort, organization, and foresight. For instance, when you're budgeting or planning, you must account for inflation.
Yeah, things get more expensive.
They do. And the material highlights something crucial here. Different things inflate at different rates. Nursing home care, for example, historically inflates much faster than, say, food or even general medical expenses. You need realistic projections.
And you also need to plan for expenses stopping eventually.
Exactly. You should also model the cessation of certain costs in later life. You probably won't be buying work clothes in retirement. Maybe your travel budget decreases significantly after a certain age. Accounting for that makes the long-term picture more accurate.
And we absolutely need to prepare for, what did the material call them? Income torpedoes.
A slight chuckle. Yeah, sounds dramatic, doesn't it? But it's for good reason.
And are they? Exactly.
We're talking about those sudden, potentially devastating events. Losing your job unexpectedly, suffering a long-term disability, which, remember that stat, is surprisingly common, or maybe a major investment failure. These terrible events often have a double whammy effect. They can simultaneously cut your income and increase your expenses, like medical bills during a disability.
And this comes back to the reserves.
This is exactly why that three-tiered cash reserve system is so incredibly critical. It's your buffer against those torpedoes. And related to income, when you do get a raise or bonus, try really hard not to immediately let your spending rise to meet it. Pay yourself first, meaning boost your savings or debt repayment.
Discipline. Organization also seemed like a simple but really important element mentioned.
Oh, it's paramount. It sounds boring, but keep your financial records meticulously organized. Have a current folder for active policies, recent statements, archive older stuff properly. And crucially, keep those vital documents, wills, powers of attorney, maybe recent W-2s, pay stubs, property deeds in secure, fireproof storage.
Why is that so critical?
Because this seemingly small habit saves you significant cost and immense stress when you suddenly need those documents, whether it's for an emergency, dealing with an estate, or even just working efficiently with your financial planner. Disorganization costs time and money.
Makes sense. And finally, the material mentioned a less obvious but maybe highly impactful investment, investing in yourself.
Absolutely. It's often said it's one of the few investments that consistently pays off better than almost any other financial asset.
How so?
Investing in learning experiences, developing new skills, maybe getting certifications or further education. These things can directly lead to promotions, a better job with higher pay, or even create a fallback career if your primary field faces disruption. Your own human capital, your skills, your knowledge, your health is arguably your most valuable long-term asset. Nurture it.
That's a great perspective. And if we connect this all back to the bigger picture, it sort of ties into that dream book process mentioned briefly in the material.
Ah, yes, I like that concept.
Yeah. It's where you first just write down your life goals, your retirement dreams, without worrying about the numbers initially. Just get the vision down. Then you prioritize them.
Right. What really matters most.
Exactly. And then you work with the planner to translate those dreams into actual financial demands. Figure out what they cost, how feasible they are, and build a mathematical model to track progress, updating it regularly as life happens.
It's a powerful way to connect the day-to-day financial grind with your actual life aspirations. Makes the numbers meaningful.
Yeah, brings your future into focus.
Ultimately, what's really fascinating and what I hope comes through is that financial planning isn't just about spreadsheets and market returns. It's such a deeply personal and, importantly, continuous journey.
It's more than just money management.
So much more. It's profoundly about fostering trust in your advisor, in your partner, in yourself. It's about building resilience to handle those inevitable bumps in the road. And ultimately, it's about actively, consciously shaping the future you desire.
That's a great way to frame it. So as we wrap up this deep dive, maybe a final thought for everyone listening.
Go for it.
After hearing all this, thinking about the pyramid, the cash reserves, the stories, what's maybe one habit or perhaps one assumption about your own finances that you are going to revisit?